folks. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Mia. Today we have Mia Kia, and we have Midori here with us for our SexualitTEA podcast. Today we're going to talk about unhelpful stereotypes we internalize in BDSM. I'm thrilled to have these folks on. Really quickly, I'll do a brief intro about myself. I'm an AASECT certified sex therapist. And again, I keep going around to how grateful I am that Midori is here with us and we get to talk about some very, very awesome things today. So I will pass the mic, Kia.
And I am Kia. I am your other co-host, and I am a sex educator. I've been involved in the Seattle BDSM community as an event planner and education coordinator about 6 years. And I am a sex positive and body positive burlesque performer and producer in the Seattle area. And Midori.
All right. Hi, I'm Midori, sexologist, educator, founded Forte Femme, wrote Seductive Art of Japanese Bondage, which was the first English instruction book. What am I doing lately? Let's see, making art. You can check it out on my Patreon. I've also been coaching a lot during the time of pandemic and doing some online classes. And yeah.
And then since then, I am super grateful to have the opportunity to learn directly from Midori at Forte Femme, and since then have worked closely with Midori. So it's super gift to have you on, Kia, and my podcast today. Thank you for taking the time with us today. Yeah, so we can kind of dive in. This is our conversation about those unhelpful stereotypes we internalize in BDSM. And I guess we can kind of dive into what are some of those that we've heard? What are some of those that come pop out at us and that are top of the mind?
Okay, the thing that first comes to mind that I encounter a lot is that, and I so understand this of when people who've had desires hidden, right? And then they find other people or subcultures or communities, and it's like, oh, such sexually sophisticated people who will accept all manners of sexuality and are so open and friendly and accepting and without the horrible things that I experienced in rejection in the mainstream world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If only.
Yeah, it's a real thing. I feel really fortunate that the first public event I went to, I was specifically meeting up with another Black woman, because I think that I would have actually ended up sitting alone because people were really standoffish and very cliquish at this particular space that I went to. Being a kinkster doesn't naturally make you a more evolved human being.
And yet that is a stereotype, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that idea that once you have perfected an arena or a skill, that there's no learning, right, after that, or and then that goes into that conversation about folks who are kinksters are better communicators, which is something that we've talked about, this idea that it enhances communication and whatnot. So I think they go hand in hand.
Let me try this out. Okay, devil's advocate, right? But we are BDSM practitioners. We negotiate. We have safe word. We communicate with clarity. We are so much more evolved because we are capable of talking about things, which allows all of us to be poly.
Mm-hmm.
Break it down.
A lot. There's a lot. One of those things being, some folks have a difficult time communicating their sexual needs out the gate. It's really hard to connect, to say what you want and say what you need. Some people are fawners, and so they will say what they think they need to say in order to maybe get something that they want or get that connection that they need. And safe words don't stop someone from doing something that they want to do to you if they have no integrity, right?
Oh, right. Because that's the myth of safe words will keep you safe. Just by having a safe word will keep you safe.
I mean, I know plenty of people that are in master-slave dynamics that don't have a safe word, but boundaries are respected. I know people that have safe words and their boundaries have been exploited numerous times. It's that myth. It is definitely a myth.
One of the beautiful parts of Midori's Forte Femme is that Midori goes into an extensive negotiation process and teaches this like beautiful awareness that I didn't have before I went. So I'm just putting a plug in there for Forte Femme and the amount of coolness that people learn from it, from that weekend. And, devil's advocate on the other side too. Can it though? Can experience in kink, and if you're walking in with negotiation awareness and with integrity, can it offer a level of communication skills that maybe folks didn't have before entering into kink? Can there be teaching around that? Can there be that, that experience level?
Agreed. I think the myth is that just by having like the basic intro level, somehow at that point you can stop learning and you can stop refining your skills. Right?
Yeah, like the learning's never complete, right? And when we don't have, what I'm hearing is that when we lose humility, then we lose that capacity or interest to be someone who learns and grows on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
And part of the component with the learning and growing is messing up, screwing up, and not even like, intentional boundary violation, but straight up misunderstanding.
Yep. I think that there are a lot more misunderstandings surrounding negotiation and surrounding just like, today was just an off day. Today, that wasn't the thing that I needed. Every other day that would have been fine, but today just wasn't the day for that. I feel like there are consent violations that may have fallen into that trap, right? Of that today was just an off communication day. Today was just not, we just weren't there. It's one of those things that I have called off scenes with folks who I've played with a million times, because one of the questions I ask is, hey, have you eaten today? Are you hydrated? And if they say no, I'm like, I don't think we're going to be able to play today. Like, when was the last time you ate? When was the last time you had anything to drink? You know what? We're going to sit down and eat. That's what we're going to do.
Okay, that is such a good story. Okay, I have a real life story. I like my stories. There was a person I was playing with that I played, half a dozen times. Good knowledge, good rapport, and a friend of mine from actually Europe, and we would only get to play every so often because San Francisco, Europe. Okay.
Yeah.
And he had flown in, we were playing, and thank goodness that the piece of bondage furniture that I had him attached to and attaching therein was nice and secure, because he fainted. And the bondage kept him held in place. And then I got him pretty quickly to come to, and then I asked, honey, tell me about your sleeping and eating. And he's like, oh, and because this is the person who's usually really good. I mean, this is an experienced person. Like, okay, I was really excited and I was having a hard time sleeping on the airplane, and maybe I kind of didn't sleep and maybe I didn't eat so much, and I was really excited about being here, and you're right, I should have known better. Honey.
Yeah.
It's like those kinds of things, like it's communicate, like it's just someone that is experienced, that air quotes should know better, but like, it is what it is. Shit happens. And I think I talk about impact versus intent a lot. And I mean, in some cases, even if the intention wasn't there, the harm was still done. And we still have to hold space for that. But sometimes it truly is just a matter of like wires were crossed and no ill intention was there. And we need to be able to hold space for that and be able to talk about that.
Or with partners
Being
who
human.
partners who are new to each other. Maybe they're not new to play, maybe they are, but like new to each other. The common words, and Mia, you know about my thing with words. The common words that we use for shorthands and labels and ways in which we get our desires across, like, what the hell does submissive mean? What the hell does, how a person differentiates or thinks about topping, bottoming, and the assumptions and experiences and the learnings that we bring into it. And yeah, I remember pretty early on being baffled when, so I'm doing the doing, and I'm setting the rules in the scene, call that whatever, and that the other person was, I think, identified themselves as submissive. So I'm like, okay, we'll do these things, right? And I think I was doing impact play, wacky, 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 right? I was doing wacky, 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 and wacky, wacky, wacky.
I love it.
Absolutely stoic, no change. Wacky, 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 no change. Wacky, wacky, baffle, baffle. Wacky, wacky, baffle, no change. And then I got sad, and I got upset, and here's what I was experiencing. I was like, I'm not seeing any reaction. Are you just putting up with this? I'm going to be sad. And my little tiny sadistic part is like, is this not spicy enough? Do I need to bring out the chainsaw? Kidding, sort of, maybe. But it was like nothing. I was like, wow, this really isn't registering. So I felt inadequate. I felt like a fail, a big old F. Mm-hmm. Then the post-revelation, I think I must have stopped the scene earlier because, hey, the person topping gets a safe word too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Also a myth that we don't. So they had internalized that a person engaging in submission is a submissive, is stoic, and does not, don't show, receive, don't show, and showing reaction would somehow displease. Like, what?
Wow.
I've encountered something like that before, and I couldn't figure out why after the scene I felt so depleted. I didn't get fed.
Right. Well, there's that question Midori teaches around, like, how will I know if it's good for you? Right? Like, and what we see and what we hear and how we receive information and feedback, it's a feedback loop, right? It's a positive feedback loop of you're in an act together, you're in a scene together, it's cause and effect and cause and vice versa. And it's fun here, right? You want to have a good time, and it's supposed to be a good time for everybody involved. If you've internalized the submissive is not somebody who shows up in a particular way or does show up in a particular way, and the other person wasn't aware of that ahead of time, then it's going to cause confusion.
Yeah. Which leads to another assumption, right? That in this, that if I like to do wacky, wacky things, just by getting to do wacky, wacky should give me joy. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
It should. I mean, like that's what people. That's how it comes across. I feel like I end up having the same conversation at every femdom event I go to, and it feels like it's Groundhog's Day a little bit because it's this. I fall into the same conversation, and it's usually centered around why a lot of fem of center dominants are like, why am I told that I'm not a good dominant because I don't do X, that I should enjoy doing X to this person, and if I don't enjoy doing X to this person, I'm not a real dominant. And I have this conversation over and over and over and over again.
Oh, go on. Let's go. Let's let it rip on the femdoms stupid shit people believe about.
Oh yeah. I'm actually teaching a class tomorrow about demystifying femdom in media, right? And that it's just, one of the things I say is that it doesn't matter what side of the slash someone that is perceived to be a woman is on. The only slash that matters to a certain type of people is the one between their legs. And so it's this idea of being a tool for cis het male pleasure, right? And that it doesn't matter if you think you're the boss or you're the submissive in whatever case, you still have a job to do, and that job is involving someone's dick. And it's such a weird place to be, and you start kind of unpacking all of these different different internalized stereotypes of, I know I deal with a lot of them surrounding whether or not am I truly a femdom because I don't do any scenes wearing a corset that I can't breathe in and shoes I can't walk in, like, okay. But really it's just like the internalized stuff that I deal with surrounding being a femdom-centered dominant is that, am I truly a dominant if I'm not wearing a corset I can't breathe in and boots I can't walk in, and am I real? Or, am I just pretending, right? And it's something that I internalize a lot. Like, how dolled up do I need to be to kick someone's fucking ass?
Well, let me give you an Asian perspective here. Mm-hmm. Flip-flops, my friend. Flip-flops.
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 Flip-flops. Flip-flops.
Yes. Yep. The terror of so many Asian Pacific Islander is the older woman with a flip-flop in her hand.
House slippers. Black culture, it's a house slipper. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like bend them like Beckham. They're like the flip-flop that will bend around the corner of the hallway and smack you on the back of your head.
Oh.
I love it.
There was a Fast and Furious recently because The Rock. In Fast and Furious, in the recent one, where they go back to a fictional Pacific Islander and the mom shows up with the flip-flop.
I love it.
Like, short, older, tough, sweet, Pacific Islander mom, flip-flop, and all these like gigantic grown men going, yes, mama.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't need to wear the leather and the corset and the heels. You may want to, but is it necessary? And if it's something that turns you on, right, as the person embodying, then go for it. Like I love wearing boots. I do. I think they're super sexy. I almost wore some today, even though we're on Zoom, because they make me feel, it gets me into a particular mood, I like wearing really tight clothing, And I think I've shared that, Midori, in our consult before. It gets me in this, it's like that, what turns you on, right? I turn myself on by, and fill in the blank. I do that in sex therapy often, is encouraging people to bring awareness to what in particular turns them on instead of putting the onus on their partner. And so if it turns you on, great, but you don't need to do that to fit in a certain mode, right? Or model, or how it's perceived in media. There can be flip-flops, and that can be the the generator there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just looking at this note I have. I think probably one of the most classic, stereotypes is this idea that men are dominants and women are submissive. And part of that is trans erasure. It is non-binary erasure at that point, right? But that, I fell into that trap very quickly when I got into the scene. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I guess I'll just be submissive because that's what, ladies do. So I'll go do that. And then tried to figure out why I was struggling to find my happy place, because it just didn't speak to me. Being told that I couldn't be a switch because no one wants to play with a switch, because it's like trying to have your cake and eat it too, that switches are like the bisexuals of the BDSM world, and that they can't make up their mind. And I'm like, oh, this is a lot of stuff. It's like one day that magic dick will come along and it will straighten you all out, like literally. And I'm like, oh, ooh, well, I really hope it doesn't show up.
I can think of several dildos that, never mind.
If it gets shipped to my door, that's a different thing.
Yeah, right, yeah.
We call that the attitude adjuster in my house.
Yeah, and then also the conversely, it's also harmful and denigrating to men who enjoy or want to bottom. And boy, the shame there. And so then there's like a weird sucker massage and Wanda kind of thing going on, where there ends up being this like icky manipulation that happens. Instead of just saying, hey, can I bottom to you tonight?
Yeah. It's an interesting trap. I feel like in a lot of dynamics that I attempt to get into with men that identify as bottoms or identify as submissive, I feel like so much of the work I'm doing is like holding their hand, the emotional work of violence, accepting this part of themselves, and that it's so much emotional labor, it's so exhausting that by the time, okay, let's play, I'm drained. I have nothing left to give you because I've been holding so much space for you, trying to accept the fact this is what you're into. And at some points being degraded or used or abandoned or made to feel guilty for accepting who I am. It's a very interesting thing to hold space for. And I've made it a rule of thumb that I don't do it anymore. That as soon as I even get a whiff of that you haven't worked through some of that shit, that's not part of the DS I'm offering. That is not part of the power exchange I'm offering. I'm not here to do that. Go pay a professional to do that, because I can't. I can't hold space for that right now.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some of that work around dismantling, I guess those frameworks, right? Or the what we've been socialized to believe or become. And it also, that's what I'm hearing you talk about, Kia, and it brings me to, like, Midori talks often about appetites and like, what are you in the mood for now versus what are you not in the mood for now, right? Rather than having it be an identity necessarily fully 100%, right? This idea that there doesn't have to be an always or never. And if the appetites match, cool. If they go together, cool. Then, you might be setting yourself up for a lot of fun that evening. But if they don't, and one person's doing a shit ton of emotional labor to try to navigate that conversation or figure out, right, what are the gaps in that, then it's going to be exhausting. Like, as a therapist,
Yeah.
I don't want to therapize like the people I play with. That's not hot, right?
Oh.
And like, that's one of my limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Like you, Kia, saying you don't do anti-racism education with your partners.
Absolutely not. Will not do it.
That's your
not
boundary.
my job.
Yeah, right.
Not my job.
And one of my limits is like, I'm a therapist and I love my job and I want to be able to do this for long term. And I don't want to do this in like my private life, right? And I also don't want to do it So I think we're really allowed and encouraged to have those limitations that are individual in our hula hoop and what feels good. And I think we learn them over time. I don't think we're just like given them. That
leads me to another myth, right? And there's this is an optimistic myth, but one I want to crush.
Ooh.
Is that BDSM will fix what's wrong with you.
I have told folks numerous times that BDSM saved my life. It did not fix me, but it saved my life. I was in a really crappy marriage. I had postpartum depression, and life was just not really the way that I wanted to be. And I decided I needed to go and experience something. Didn't know what, need to experience something. And that's how I fell into the BDSM community here in Seattle. And I was really miserable, and I was like, I need to do something about this. I need to do something, anything now. And so I went to, I got on FetLife actually, found FetLife. Like, there's got to be something here. And that's how I ended up at the Center for Sex Positive Culture the first time. And it saved my life in that, like, I was going to stay married to this person. I was going to have this very suburban life that did not fit me. I know that I was going to become resentful of my husband and of my child. Like, I knew this was on the horizon and I needed to find something. And so it saved my life, but it definitely did not fix me. It's not, BDSM can, what do they say? BDSM can be therapeutic, but it's not therapy, it's.
I'd like to unpack that a bit, because I think, for the three of us, it seems incredibly obvious, right?
Right, yeah. And
yet, all right, so how to explain this in a way, because I keep hearing this over and over, and then, I'm not invalidating somebody's aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I want to talk about it is that there are other things like, you realizing something had to change, right? Mm-hmm. So much has to do with the work, consciously or unconsciously, formally or informally, a person's already been doing. It could just as well be BDSM or going on a long hike or picking up tennis.
Sometimes it's just the change. It's just a shake up to your norm, right? Sometimes that's it.
So how do we explain therapeutic versus therapy, and what exactly it is that we're cautioning people against? Because you talked about intent, and I don't want to top somebody who's thinking that I will fix them of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one example.
Yeah.
Well, I think it goes to what you and I often talk about of managing expectations, and also not putting an experience or a hope or an intention or a scene up on a pedestal, or a person on a pedestal. Putting kink on a pedestal and saying, this is something that I'd like to experience in this, you can have that intention, and you can say, this is the kind of mood, and this is something I'd like, but also the awareness of, if this doesn't happen, cool, like we still had a good time, we still had an experience that was lovely, or fill in the blank with however it was. But I think does that resonate with you, Midori, going back to shifting those expectations for why and what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does for me. I'm getting a little bit nervous out there because I'm starting to see people either professionally or non-professionally advertising themselves as providing a therapeutic or cathartic experience.
Mm-hmm. It becomes very messy. I had a very, very intense scene as a bottom when I first got started, like heavy impact. It was very, very intense. It was a thing. And I spent like a couple months afterwards very depressed. I played, but very depressed. And I had no frame of reference of like I've never done heroin, right? But I have a feeling that chasing after that same high that I got from that one scene probably feels very similar to when you first take a hit, and then every subsequent hit of it does not hit nearly like that. And it was very, very depressing. And this was fairly early on in my journey. And like for like 3 months, I was just extremely moody. Nothing brought me joy. Nothing really brought me happiness. And I was like, but I'm doing the BDSM and I really like it and it's fun, but it's like I'm not getting that same feeling. And it put so much pressure on myself to react and feel that same way that I did that first time, as opposed to being mindful and being in the moment and enjoying it for what it is in the moment.
So, yeah, the high of the experience. Oh, do you mind if I bring up another stereotype?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
High bar of entry. High bar of entry. Like I see this with like rope bondage stuff, or flogging or single tail, where the expectation of technical perfection before playing with somebody. So there's like technical high bar of entry. Like I have to be like so good, right? And then there's like, I have to have these toys in order to go do these things. Or I have to look this way. I heard that one too.
Yeah, I don't have the outfit to wear. I have so many people who have not come to events or munches or meetups or things like that because they didn't have the outfit. I'm like, what? Are you coming to the munch in latex? Like, this is a Denny's. Like, you got, like, we're not doing that here, right? You know,
we appreciate a clean t-shirt, maybe clean.
Yeah, right.
Clean t-shirt.
But there is that high bar for entry. There is this gatekeeping of knowledge. This idea that someone may feel like they identify X way. They come into the community, and people are like, "You don't even know how to use a flogger. What kind of dom are you?" Kind of thing. And
I have a flip flop.
Right? I have this flip flop. I know that half flip flop will beat you. Right? Like, but there's this thing where I mean, I've seen people roll into a party with like a trunk full of toys, and no one will play with them. But you see like this one kid in the room that is has those metal claws, and everyone's lining up, and all these different things, and it is a gatekeeping, it's that high bar of entry. Rope has always terrified me because the Seattle scene up here, rope people are really intense, and if you don't know this and you don't know do that, you're like, oh, that's fine.
My God. Yeah. You know what? I don't feel I don't feel comfortable in that either. And it's just so joyless. It's so joyless. Oh my God. Okay, so just here's an analogy I make. Knowing how an engine works doesn't mean you're any good at driving. It also doesn't mean you might enjoy driving or that you might be good company to drive with. I haven't a squat clue how my car works under the hood. Thank God for mechanics. But I'd like to think I'm good company on a road trip.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's the gatekeeping, where there is this pretentious condescension around, and the pretentious condescension makes the person doing the condescending feel better. But what they don't realize is they're not going to access and meet really neat new people, and one's technical proficiency does not reflect on your humanity.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing, is that the gatekeeping and and talking down to folks and making folks feel lesser than is kind of trying to top someone without their consent, right? Like, it's pretty gross, right? Like, when you think about that, like, you're humiliating someone, and you're humiliating someone without their consent, and you're getting off on it. Like, you're getting something out of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross. Like, I'm just going to say that. I think that's pretty gross. I don't like it.
It is. And we see that happening in the, new person. And I'm going to totally gender this because I see this all the time. Hey, little lady, are you new to BDSM? You must be a submissive, because you're femicenter, and ergo you must be, insert assumption. You must be a submissive. Well, I'm Master Dragon Breath, and I know all. Don't listen to them. I'm oldie gardy Euro House of Pancake trained.
That's how they be sounding. I'm like they're reading off their title from Game of Thrones, you know? Right? You're just like, what are you? Stop. It's baffling. And then, like, I'm going to mentor as a dominant. You're going to mentor this 18-year-old femme as a submissive, not really understanding what that word mentor means, because I don't fuck my mentors. Right?
Are you hopeful that this will shift as people do more work around power dynamics in the greater context? And maybe I'm just being a little hopeful, but yeah, okay.
Yep. Fingers crossed.
I love it. Okay. Yeah, because I think having that hope that with conversations around this, and with awareness, and with folks in the community who are leaders, and as we talk about these topics, but it just brings more awareness around these areas that really need shifting. You know, that's why this is such a beautiful topic to talk about today, that there are so many myths. And I think we could probably, I mean, we haven't gone through half of the ones that we talked about maybe covering, because there are just so many. And I think we could spend an entire day just going through all of the myths. Midori, would you show your plaque again, the plaque behind you?
Yeah.
Please. Yeah.
So I do a series of little videos called Auntie Midori's BDSM Basics, and I cover really basic things. And I actually just did a longer version. I had social media, all my readers submit their favorite dumbass myths. And then I had like 8 pages after editing down for duplication.
Nice.
Single line. Yeah, single space. 8 pages.
I posed this question to my Facebook list the other night, and got some from folks that are vanilla, who don't engage in kink, as well as people who are part of the kink community, and people who practice, you know, without being a part of the community. And it was a wide range, and one of the ones that like kept coming up was that BDSM is always about pain. It's always about this hardness, and that there's no room for being soft or kind
or funny.
Or funny, right? You know, like these things, right? No laughing, so serious. I love to laugh. I love to laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm an exhibitionist.
There's this one scene that I did years ago. My God, I should do this again. I tied somebody to a pole, and I want you to know it wasn't like, you know, shibari macrame. No, I just like wrapped it around like Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny style.
I love it.
And then I had a stack of really bad dad jokes, old Jewish vaudeville jokes. I mean, and I just sat there and just read the jokes until they called their safe word. And that was an entire scene.
Punishment.
Yes. A rabbi and a priest walk into a bar. A dog walks into a bar.
It's fun. I
Paul.
love laughing, right? Like laughing is fun, and scenes that everyone involved is having a good time, and it's no one's taking anything like too extra seriously. Because when I seen publicly, part of that getting fed is not only what my partner is enjoying, but I like listening and hearing what other people back behind me are like. That's funny. That's cute. Are they beating them to the music? You know, like they're noticing these different things about that. I've done a scene where I have literally just been beating on my partner and having conversations with people out, you know, who are just kind of out and about. And one of my partners that I live with, my boy, he's so used to that play style that when we do start kind of playing one-on-one, he goes, it's always so much fun when you're just chatting to people and I'm just an object, because he loves objectification, so it's beautiful for him.
Oh, that really adds to it because it's a temporary diminishment of the complexity.
Right? Yeah.
Nice.
And it's just beautiful and fun, and I'm a performer at my core.
Yeah.
So that getting to entertain folks and make folks laugh and also be able to provide that space for my partner to be that object, and he is just getting all of that. He's getting fed. He is getting drunk from it. And I am drunk from entertaining, but also making sure his needs are being met in the scene. My feet don't touch the ground for hours after a scene. Like, I did my job. I did what I came in there to do. I feel really good. He feels good. It's great.
The power of humor. I like playing with humor as well. I think I come from like the some of my scenes tend to be surrealist humor that start with ha 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 and then go, ooh.
Like that. That's me pulling up a chair. I'm like, yes, more of this. How weird will it get? Take me there. Let's do it.
I love it. Oh, this is so great.
I'm as much of an exhibitionist as I am a voyeur. When people do scenes in public and things start to get like really intense or surreal or weird and people are kind of backing away, I'm the person that's just like, they're doing this in public because they want people to see it. I'm going to witness this.
Ew.
Right?
About exhibitionism. I mean, one of the stereotype of exhibitionism is that's held in and out of the subcultures. Exhibitionism is about showing skin or genitals, right? That's a myth. Or that exhibitionism is somehow about being seen while engaging in what's commonly considered sex.
Yeah.
As opposed to the kind of exhibitionism that we're talking about here is more psychodrama and a little bit of theater. That elicits a reaction, as opposed to, I mean, there's some exhibitionism that is about violating the social taboo of what body parts or what actions cannot be seen. But it's like, yeah, that like showing my genitals or, you know, by Facebook standards, nipples.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What's that exhibition, being an exhibitionist and being a voyeur, it's so it's come up a lot in a non-kinky sense recently with burlesque. We have so many burlesque folks who are out of work because venues, of course, are closed, and so they're doing digital stuff. And a lot of folks are having a hard time converting to the digital because they're like, well, I get fed from the audience, and so if that's not there, I'm not getting my high. And I'm just like, do we want to talk about exhibitionism? Do we want to go down this road? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm just like, you can get a high that's different, but in that same vein. And so we talk about like when you're filming your acts, if you're filming them live, making sure you're getting lots of direct eye contact to your camera and like pretending that on the other end of that camera is like a partner or someone that you're trying to entice or whatever. And I've been actually consulting a lot of burlesque performers and how to make this jump into the digital arena through the concept of exhibitionism and voyeurism and using that to get what they need from, this component of creating their art. And it's amazing, but it is a stereotype that like, it's showing your nipples. I have done so many burlesque acts here recently where I haven't even really taken off my clothes and they're still really sexy and inviting and really teasy and all of that. Kink is the same way. Like you could do a really hot ass scene and never even think about touching someone's genitals. And it still be just as and be fulfilling. The first time I did a scene where I was just like, I didn't have a moment of sitting there and comparing it to sex or whatever. It was just its own thing. I felt so powerful. I was like, well, okay, that's a thing that can be tapped into. That is a thing that if I want to tap into, that I can. Like kink, BDSM isn't just sex. And also, what is sex?
Yeah. Right? This idea of what is sex and how do we expand the definition and how do we know what we think we know? Because most of what we were taught was bullshit. Absolutely. I don't know about you, but that was my experience. As we're wrapping up, are there any I know, unfortunately.
I know, this is so good. This is how we got in trouble the last time.
At some point. I know. Last time it was 2 hours with Miss Brickhouse. So we're trying to be more succinct with our 50-minute to an hour. But at some point we'd love to have you back on, Midori, because you're just so wonderful.
This was so great.
Any last thoughts that you'd like to share?
Well, let's see. I would love to invite people over to my Patreon. It's patreon.com, Planet Midori, where I'm putting out a lot of essays, and some of it's from the archive, and doing office hours. It's a monthly subscription, so it makes it easy for anywhere from $2 on up. I figure that way it's accessible. And for those folks who want to coach with me, great. And if coaching is not something that they're ready for, I have office hours, So come do that. Also, my artwork. I've got my artwork that I post in there. And I'll send you the invite for the upcoming reception that I have tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Please do.
Yeah, so check out my Patreon, please. And I'm on social media. I'm posting about my cats and stuff all the time.
Yes.
Yes.
More cat content.
Please. And I'm on Midori's Patreon, and it's really, really rad. So it's a wonderful opportunity to get the whole wide range. And being a person who works with Midori and consults, I can also say it's really, really awesome. And so if you are able to do that, totally go for it. Midori is a total gem. And we'll offer some of this information on our Instagram and social media, and this full podcast will be on our Patreon as well.
Yeah.
Right, Kia?
Yes. So if you're thinking about becoming a Patreon subscriber, let me push you into that direction of doing it. Our Patreon is SexualitTEA, as in SIP T, SEA, as in Seattle. And we have couple different levels of subscription that you can do, but if you become a subscriber, you get early access to our podcast, which is really, really amazing. And that early access can be anywhere between a week to 2 weeks ahead of time. I've had a schedule, so which is a lot of fun. And we have discounts to different events as they become available, as well as exclusive content. So definitely check that out.
So about Patreon, I have a question for
Yes.
both of you. I have gotten, okay, so the financial support allows me to create my work, yes. But man, I am feeding so much off of the interaction. You know, I'll post something like today, I posted a rambling, and like
I loved it.
I had people like posted things, and just like the interaction, especially with the physical isolation and being distantly social now. And validation around my artwork, just that emotional support. So for folks who feel like, oh, you know, I can't give much, you know what, a little bit, and then click on a like or make a comment or whatever, and that just makes me go, woo!
It does. Yeah. We are very, very excited when we get new subscribers. But when we get those interactions, it's really, really huge. And the fact that folks are engaging with us, I know that when we did our jealousy and compersion mini cast on Instagram, there was so much interaction with folks live in that Instagram feed. And it just was like, people are here for it. And it's amazing to know that you're not just shouting out into the ether. Sometimes it's really nice that like you shout into a black hole and you're like, I'm not going to hear anything. And then you hear like this, hello. And you're like, holy fuck, I'm not alone. Yes.
Right.
Right. Like it's resonating and it's beautiful. I'm so glad that we got to meet digitally. I've heard so much about you from Mia, of course, and one of my mentors when I first got started in the community was Elena Gabosh, and she has nothing but nice things to say about you. And so this is just kind of a beautiful full circle moment, I feel like, for my life. I'm just like, yay, this is beautiful. And I'm glad that we really dove into, I mean, we could go deep. I feel like we are people that can go real, real deep.
Okay. So
right?
when we can actually get together, I'm thinking like fancy umbrella cocktails and like hella dom bitchin'.
Yes, go deep. I love it. I'm so here for that. But I really appreciate you. I appreciate everyone that's listening in to our podcast, and make sure that you'll see links. You'll see links in the podcast, especially on our YouTube page, our YouTube channel. But definitely make sure that you're following all of us on our social medias. But for SexualitTEA, it is _ sexuality.t_, and that is at Instagram. And then definitely make sure that you are following us you subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is SexualitTEA SEA. And then we'll make sure that we have all of Midori's information. It'll be down at the bottom of the screen there for you. And follow, like, yeah, you like that? Follow, like, right there. So follow, like, and we appreciate you all so much. Stay hydrated, drink plenty of water.
Thank you. Stay hydrated, lots of water, all the water. Bye.